Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show. I'm your host Manoj Agarwal, and today we'll be talking with Reza. So Reza has an amazing journey, amazing career, and Reza, why don't you please give us a little bit of an intro about yourself? Before that, let me just bring up his track record, which has been an inspiration for me when I went through it. So Reza stands out as a pioneering force in the tech world, renowned for his groundbreaking contributions and dynamic leadership. As the founder and chair of Kwaai, Reza is at the forefront of democratizing AI. His vision and leadership in his developer community are shaping the future of accessible AI technologies. Reza's tenure as the CTO of RealNetworks is marked by a remarkable pivot from its streaming media roots to becoming a leader in AI. With a history of leading startups over 1 billion dollars in exits, Reza is a proven serial startup pro, and his knack for value creation has left a significant imprint on the tech landscape. Reza's innovativeness is evident in his 27 patents granted in the US. As an innovator of award winning technology, his contributions have both transformed and they have been transformative and widely recognized. His extensive domain expertise spans a vast array of areas, including computer vision, edge AI, biomedical devices, hybrid cloud, and more. This versatility underscores his comprehensive understanding of the tech industry. Reza's career highlights include being a founding employee at Zaya, Widevine Technologies, both of which were acquired by Google, and serving as the director of software at Second Sight, which went public in 2014. He also developed the Lightworks NLE, a technical Oscar Emmy winning product, and has been an active inventor, standards body participant, and technical article author. Reza's multifaceted career and achievements position him as a true visionary in the tech world. So, welcome, Reza. Wow.
Manoj, I'm not sure if you were talking about me or someone else, but thank you so
Definitely
much.
about you. Definitely about you. So yeah. So as I was saying, I read the journey you've had, but in your own words, please walk us through that timeline. Walk us through this history of how you became so successful and left such a big impact on the world.
Um, it's I'd rather reflect on a personal story.
Yeah,
My
absolutely. Please.
personal journey. I was born in Cape Town in South Africa at the
Mm-hmm.
height of apartheid.
Mm-hmm.
Our family left when I was 8 years old, and you can tell from my accent that I grew up in London.
Mm-hmm.
So my formative years were in another land, and I grew up in London and studied physics at King's College, but it wasn't really physics that was the theme of my career. It was more computer science, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in the early 90s, I fell in with a group of developers that said, "Hey, we're thinking we can edit a movie on a computer." At that time, movie editing was done by film and splicing film or
Mm-hmm.
recording the film onto videotape and using multiple video machines to eventually cut a movie. It was very painstaking. And at that time, this group, which I guess you'd call a startup before the term startup was coined,
Mm-hmm.
we put together a system that allowed you to edit a movie on a computer. And it was that system, Lightworks, that you mentioned, that's still in operation today. In fact,
Wow.
leading editors are still cutting on Lightworks. Martin Scorsese's latest movie,
Mhm,
The Killers of the Flower Moon,
mhm.
Oscar nominated,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the sort of leading editors are still cutting on Lightworks. Um, it was a machine. It was a technology that was not only a cool product. It actually disrupted the entire business of the town that I'm in now. I'm talking to you from Los Angeles, and it was on the strength of that development that I moved to America. I moved my family over here and built a career around digital video, digital audio, and I've been really fortunate to have been at the right place at the right time and managed to contribute to a number of cool projects, products. It was interesting. You listed my US patents. Actually, if you go to the World Patent Office, I think it's over 70 world
Wow.
patents. It was quite funny that my colleague at Kwaai said, okay, so we've got about 27 in the US and 72 in the World Patent Office. So that makes 100 patents, doesn't it? I said, no, Matt, America is part of the world.
Yeah.
which is an interesting thing. You often think that technology is just in the US and specifically West Coast. And there's this sort of myopic view of the technocracy, the elite of the technology sector, that they think that everything's happening here, and maybe not even Los Angeles, maybe it's up in Silicon Valley, and that is the world of technology. So look, my personal viewpoint is informed by my journey coming from Africa, living in London, and now having enjoyed a prosperous career in America. And now at the end of my career, I consider myself retired. I'm actually busier than ever because as soon as I retired, I formed a movement. It's called Kwaai, and the movement is one that hopes to democratize AI. That's our mission. And how we do that is through very practical steps, and I would love to talk to you more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go deeper into that. But before that, one thing I want to touch upon is obviously this podcast it's called Bootstrapping Your Dreams. I have somewhat of a similar story coming from India. Mama, I want to touch upon this. There have been so many success stories of immigrants, of not just immigrants but underdogs, people who did not have a lot of resources, but somehow they were crazy enough to think, okay, they can disrupt industries, they can change the world, they can create things that have never been created before. How do you find that? How do you find that courage to even think like that or talk about these kind of things and actually make it happen? But I think making it happen starts with actually being able to think about it and say, oh, I have the audacity, I have the I think I can do it. How do you find that inside you?
Yes. So part of it is just my own personal bloody mindedness. I don't like being told no. But I think it's also informed by my upbringing. As I said, we grew up in coming from South Africa at the height of apartheid. I come from a long line of troublemakers, people that resisted authority and were activists. So many more courageous than me. I'm too fearful to go and mount the barricades, so I fight my battles in other ways. But a long line of people that questioned authority, questioned being told, no, you can't do this. And that I credit to my father, but also all of the people in that area who taught us critical thinking. So to not just receive the word as truth, unvarnished from your professors or from government or from business leaders. No, you need to hone in yourself the ability to critically think, and I think that's an important thing. I was just at the weekend on a panel talking to a group of MBA students from the Northwestern Kellogg MBA program. And the final question was, what is the one takeaway? It is to value your own critical thinking. That is the thing
Mm-hmm.
that's going to make us stand apart from the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's also valuable in questioning authority,
Mm-hmm.
questioning the status quo.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of instinct that I have. And then the I also have a phrase to myself. Well, how hard can it be?
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody poses a problem like, okay, we'd like to
Yeah.
edit a movie on a computer. Well,
Yeah.
how hard can it be? And
Yeah.
some fantastically difficult problems like, we'd like to unify quantum mechanics with
Yeah.
general relativity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, most people, say that's impossible.
Yeah.
I'm bloody minded to say, well, how hard can that be? And
Yeah.
so, look, it's probably a, a bit of stupidity on my part to uh, and arrogance to think that I can solve the problems, but it turns out that you can
Mm.
solve it. Um, I actually find ignorance, and I wouldn't call it stupidity, but ignorance is actually a good is an asset.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Especially when in young startup teams or young teams, I find that the newbie, the youngster has not learnt what's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
You give them that task and they turn out that they actually achieve it. Whereas
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
veterans and the mature fellows on the team who said it was impossible, they would rebuff you straight away if you gave them
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
task. So
Yeah.
I've seen that happening, and I've kind of employed that sort of willful ignorance um, that actually holds you back. The list of constraints that you learn as you grow up, that of what is impossible. And I
Mm-hmm.
try and blinker myself to that,
Mm-hmm.
and think harder just about the problem. Okay, I hope that answered that question. It was a
Yeah,
bit.
absolutely. No, that was great. And I know we want to get into AI stuff, but one more thing, you mentioned, being at the right place at the right time, and this is what another, if I come across a crazy person who wants to do something, they always have this another phrase like, oh, they got lucky, they were at the right time at the right place. But I also want to dig into that, like, people who do change the world, are they really at the right time at the right place, or they actually are ready to seek out those opportunities, and they recognize and they latch on very quickly? And what is your take on that?
Well, some people uh, would 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 take all the credit for their own success
Mhm.
and discount the fact that they're actually standing on the shoulders of of a previous generation.
Sure, sure, for sure, for sure.
They have, you might not have inherited wealth, but you've got wisdom that was passed down from your parents and from previous
Mhm,
generations.
mhm,
And you might have been fortunate to have been born into an environment that's actually more supportive,
mhm.
rather than being born into a war zone or so on, and where
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
main preoccupation is just on survival. So I've got to be grateful for that. I've got to be grateful for the environmental contribution, um, and yeah, look, coming to the US at the sort of in the midst of the .com boom, um, and well, first of all, in London, being in the UK, having the benefit of free university education, that era is gone. So when you talk
Mhm,
about being in the right place at the right time, that
mhm,
that era is gone. In the UK, it's gone. In the US, it's gone. Now, this current my kids' generation are burdened with student debt. Being at the right time in terms of the economic cycles, that that you don't, that's not none of my doing. What is important is to recognize the wave and to catch it on the flood. And you see this after history, after living for a while, you see trends coming, and you see the need. You see that there's a need. There's an unfulfilled need that perhaps you can contribute to, and so part of it is having that instinct. But look, we're not free to quickly switch from one project or one job to another, because what are we trying to? We we've got bills to pay, we've got mortgages to pay, and so hey, this is a rant about that conflict between, was it me or was it my environment that led to the success? I think it's a bit of both.
It's a mix of, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, great. So now, I mean, talking about the wave now, let's talk about the AI wave, because few people. I mean, there's a lot of noise about it. Few people understand it, and few people are doing something about it. And you have identified a great need. So let's talk about AI first. What do you think is AI, and why there is so much hype about it? If you can start there.
So I'm going to give a less popular view of AI. I think I broaden the definition of AI and say it's the collection of processes that you would normally expect a human to do. So if you take that broader view of AI, I can easily say that most of my career has been around AI, because I've been working in the area of image, vision, and audio processing, either on massive computers or at the microscopic level. I was director of software for Second Sight, which built a retinal implant, and so that is human computer vision, but artificial, artificial version of it. I also was a DSP engineer for Advanced Bionics, which was working on the cochlear implant, and I designed the second generation of the logic that operates between the external speech processor and the internal stimulator. So this is processing that you would normally expect of a human, and we are mimicking it. We are mimicking artificially with computer engineering. All of this, I follow along a path. Decision making is another area that you would ascribe to a human, and we're trying to now replace that with computers. And it wasn't always deep neural networks, the current form of AI that we are living through at the moment. AI went through a number of phases. There was the phase of expert systems. There was the phase of genetic algorithms, where you'd have a collection of algorithms that you would subject to a fitness function, and then those that achieved the fitness function would be allowed to replicate in the next generation. And you used evolutionary techniques in order to iterate through these algorithms until a successful one was chosen. That was the sort of AI du jour 20 years ago. The deep neural network is not brand new. In fact, the core component of AI, called the perceptron, that's the computation that's going on at each node, was designed in the 40s, 1943, I think.
Mm-hmm.
and hasn't changed since then. It turns out that the deep neural network and the mechanisms for training it are, you know, the current thing that we do now. And it also turns out that we realize that GPUs, which weren't designed to compute neural network processing, they were actually designed for graphics acceleration, for
Mm-hmm.
game cards and so on. And now it turns out that they are really useful for computing this deep neural networks. So we've we the current state of play where we've got massive compute farms in the cloud crunching in order to train neural networks, and then the processing in order to run the inference. That is part of an evolution of AI, and it's certainly not the end of the story. Where do we go from here? I think we can do a whole lot better than what we are at now. The current state of play, deep neural networks are really slow to converge, which means that you've got your input layer, you've got multiple hidden layers, and then an output layer where you get your answer. That convergence that is very slow. It requires many millions of samples, especially if you're creating a computer vision stack like I was creating at RealNetworks. That takes millions of samples. Now compare that to a young infant who learns to recognize the faces of their family in very, very few samples. That sort of neural network converges a lot faster. The other thing that is a reality in current neural networks is you have to train it in one massive instance, and then the model gets released and it runs inference in another instance. But this 2-pound biological computer that we all carry with us is
Mm-hmm.
able to learn and think concurrently.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can do better. And the bloody mindedness in me says, well, how hard can it be?
Mm-hmm.
I tend not to want to follow the fashion and always think about, okay, how can we do this differently? How can we do it better? So a very small part of what we're doing at Kwaai is we're running research and we're commissioning research into fundamental AI to make AI models smarter, faster, and greener. And I can talk more about that later.
Yeah. That's great. Now, obviously, as engineers, we can geek out on the all the intricacies, but for the general public, I want to keep it like a little bit simpler here. There's a lot of fear and misinformation about AI. Whenever I talk about AI, the first thing is like I'm so scared of AI, and oh, it's gonna take away our jobs, it's gonna take over humanity, and everything's gonna blow up. So can you address that in your own way? Like, what do you see? How do you respond to that when people say I'm scared of AI, about the jobs that will be lost, or AI even becoming sentient and sort of Terminator style, just taking over everything?
Yeah. So Manoj, there's a spectrum of opinions from well-respected people that are deep thinkers. So at the spectrum of the sort of AI doomers that say AI is going to spells the end of humanity. We're going to get, our Roombas are all going to conspire and overtake the world. I'm not in that camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the other extreme of the AI cheerleaders that say, "Hey, you know what? It's going to raise all boats. The pie will get larger. Don't worry. There'll be jobs for everyone." And they're respected people at either end. Yuval Harari, who's a deep thinker, the author of Homo
Yeah,
Deus,
yeah,
says
yeah.
that large language models have hacked the very operating system of humanity. That
mm,
language is the operating system of humanity. It's the way we
mm,
communicate.
mm,
At the other extreme, guys like Jan LeCun from Facebook, from Meta, uh, he's an AI optimist, and I think the answer is it's not that it's somewhere in the middle. The answer is we have to steer it to
mm,
where
mm,
which extreme it's going. We
mm,
should
mm,
not be sleepwalking through this phase of society, the phase of the industry. It's vitally important that we actively engage to steer
mm, mm,
AI from either a dystopian future or one that is going to be where we are actually amplified, where
mm,
AI, we can rename AI instead of artificial intelligence as amplified intelligence. It is
mm.
you better. It's
Yeah,
me
yeah.
better. It augments me. It amplifies me, um, and each one of us. And I'd love to talk more about that, about our concept for personal AI.
Yeah, let's dive into that because um again, a lot of people actually talk about AI. There's a lot of money flowing into AI, but you have picked a different lane, which is first of all democratizing AI. Let's focus on that, and then you have come up with a term which I haven't heard elsewhere, like personal AI. So let's dive into that. What is the thinking behind it? What is the inspiration behind it? How are you going about you know doing it, actually making it a reality?
Right. So we've taken the really hard and non-traditional path of forming a non-profit. So this is not my typical path of a startup, of um, developing a prototype and something that's demoable, and then a pitch deck, and then going cap in hand along Sandhill Road or wherever the VCs are,
Hmm.
and getting the startup funded, and then hopefully having an exit at some point. That's
Hmm.
not what we're doing here. This is bootstrapping your dreams in a different way.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I retired from RealNetworks, um, and thought about this bootstrapping your dreams, bootstrapping a nightmare. Making sure it doesn't become a nightmare.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and so I put out a small video
Hmm.
back in July last year that said, "Hey," and it was sitting right here by this bookcase. Hey,
Hmm.
I'm feeling a bit anxious about AI. I don't exactly know what to do about it, but I think we should kick off a movement, and that's I put out on LinkedIn, as you do, and got a number of people who got excited and responded. And I said, well, let's just have a weekly public meeting about this, and we've now, I think we've had 28 of those weekly public meetings. Um, the actual answer of how do we respond to this angst about AI and do something practical was not. I didn't have a firm idea of what that was going to be, but I thought if I get enough smart people around and we create a culture of collegial dialogue, we can help solve the problem or help
Hmm.
figure out what the solution is. And I didn't want just a talking shop. I wanted us to do practical things, things that we are skilled at. So my Rolodex, my list of connections are all technical people that are also reasonably senior.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and so we were able to talk at a high level about what's going on, but we also needed some juniors to come in, some foot soldiers to actually help prototype and build stuff. So how did we bootstrap this? Well,
So
yeah,
before that, just to again, let's clarify what does personal AI mean,
Personal
and
AI. Okay,
why
right,
why AI needs to be democratized?
right.
Because that's
Yeah,
another thing that a lot of people don't understand.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Currently, if we do nothing, AI is owned by maybe a half a dozen corporations. If
Mm-hmm.
we do nothing, um, and we know that this form of monopoly is leads to fragile economies, brittleness in the economy. In fact, a century ago, the US economy was in a similar state where it was monopolized. It was actually the um, there were maybe a half a dozen large corporations that basically ran the US economy, and a crash followed. And after the crash, um, which was devastating not only for the US economy but for the rest of the world as well, um, anti-monopolistic regulation was put in place to help resist that. And progressively, those regulations have been eroded. So there's nothing stopping the current status quo where AI is currently controlled by maybe a half a dozen corporations. It's not clear that they have humanity's best interests at heart.
Mm-hmm.
They certainly don't have mine and your best interests at heart. Um, Now, we're both old enough to remember a similar monopoly, uh, maybe 2 decades ago, when server operating systems, were controlled maybe by a half a dozen corporations.
Mm-hmm.
And then along comes Linux, a volunteer, open source, grassroots movement that transformed the AI operating system and it's but the operating system landscape. And now Linux is the dominant operating system. Not that it was a free for all. It was in fact, wealthy companies were built on top of open source. Red
Mm-hmm.
Hat being the first billion-dollar company built on top of
Mm-hmm.
open source. So this notion of counteracting the monopoly is something that we all should participate in. If you sleepwalk through this, then there'll just be a concentration of wealth and power in the hands of few. And that concentration actually means it's being taken away from you. You are
Mm-hmm.
being disenfranchised. You are being mined for your data. Wealth is being taken from you and is being concentrated elsewhere. You have to be active. Don't be complicit in the monopolization of the industry. So, personalization, making it personal. So, the marketing pitch to individuals were you need to take this personally. It's,
Mm-hmm.
it's personal. And so personal AI is a tagline, it's a call to action. Make AI personal. Um, if you don't, then it's going to be used against you and it's going to devalue you. So you think, oh, well, how's that going to happen? Well, okay. Think about think about who owns your digital twin. What is a
Mm-hmm.
digital twin? The digital twin is the collection of data that corporations have been mining for the last 20 years, or since the early days of the internet, about you. Who is
Mm-hmm.
Manoj? Who's Reza? What are their likes? What are their preferences? Um, what are their beliefs? So that I can target them for marketing messages and
Mm-hmm.
offers, and maybe for political um, uh, influencing their political leanings. This industry, this mining industry that's been sucking up data to develop these digital twins of each of us, um, are part of this sort of disenfranchisement, this part of this extraction of wealth and knowledge, because that data is being used to monetize you better. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a really, really dumb way of doing it. It's a
Mm-hmm.
really dumb way of doing it because you're being placed into a bucket for the purpose of marketing, and that those buckets, they're not very many of them. So um, my instinctive resistance to being categorized and placed
Mm-hmm.
in a bucket is part of the bloody mindedness that says, no, I need to own my own AI. I don't need Netflix to have a digital twin of me that understands my entertainment preferences. I don't want, you know, my financial preferences and likes and needs being held by some third party, or my shopping wants and needs being held by another third party, because it's ultimately inaccurate and it's not up to date. I'm still being sent offers for flights to Cape Town. I came back from that trip 2 months ago, and so that depersonalized AI, where your AI is controlled by vendors or by the government or by your employer. Well, let's explore that. What if your employer could look at your last 10 years, say, of your work output and build an AI model that says, okay, let's say you're a professor of an English department at a university. The college says, okay, we've looked at your last 10 years of assignments and the way you've graded the returned essays. We've created an AI model that could be your co-pilot. That's wonderful. It's going to make you more efficient. It's going to free you up to think about, better curriculum and so on. Or what would they say instead? Well, we're a for-profit institute. We've hired a TA to use your co-pilot. We wish you well in your future career. That is not theoretical. That type of AI, that type of use of AI, where your digital twin, your co-pilot, your personal assistant, whatever it's called, is actually owned by someone else, then it'll diminish you. It'll reduce your employability. It'll devalue you. So it's vitally important that you own your own co-pilot. If you don't, you're in effect giving up the pilot seat. So we encourage people to take it personally, this whole AI thing.
That's
Make
great.
it personal. And so we are developing a personal AI operating system. What does that mean? It is a framework that allows every individual to own and operate their own AI that they have privately to themselves. They can run it locally, and it's trained on their own private data. That's vitally important. And so that's a vision for the future. We're not there yet, but we will be rolling out a early prototype at the upcoming summit, which is in March at the Scale conference.
Nice. Well, thank you. Yeah, that explanation, I hope people can digest it, whether they are technical or not. But as you brought up these points, the world is changing, and AI certainly is a defining force about how things will end up for a lot of people. And so you are doing something amazing, and I'm really glad to somehow be part of it, contribute to it. What are your next steps? What are you looking for now in this journey? Anybody listening who's inspired, who wants to be interested, who wants to contribute in some way, what should they be doing, and how can they help?
Yeah, so look, it's a young movement. We started it in the middle of last year. When we ended 2023, we had about 150 members. We hope to get to about 1,000 volunteers by the end of this year. So who would be those members, volunteers? Anyone that is an AI thinker. You don't actually have to be technical. We've got 3 broad work streams or pathways to personal AI. There's the technical path, the software development around personal AI. There's the as I said, there's the AI fundamental track, which is hardcore deep neural network research. Okay. Then there's the policy track, where we are drafting employment contract terms, language that anticipates AI. We're drafting licensing agreements for training data. We're drafting specification or the equivalent of nutrition facts for AI models, so vendors can be transparent about what's inside their model, what is its performance, what data was it trained on, what was the provenance of that data, and what's its implicit, what's its bias, what are the details. So we are reaching out to different audiences. Initially, it was people in my network, a technical audience. But as we're growing, in fact, today we announced the appointment of a director of EMEA. So the Kwaai EMEA chapter, Europe, Middle East, Africa chapter, is Christian Randieri. He's a well-known researcher in AI, Forbes, NASA. He's got a lot of affiliations to his credit. So look him up, and we're hoping to expand Kwaai beyond just the US and the west coast of the US, and now we can have work groups that operate in a time zone across the Atlantic. So who are we reaching out to? I guess this is a call to action to anyone that's an AI thinker, but we have formed affiliations with research institutes, with universities and colleges, to software development companies. That we've got actually in the market, there's a glut of software talent, but there's also an angst that this talent is not up to speed with AI. So we pitched this to one of the early software companies, a company called Arcus Nexus, which is actually based south of the border from where I am. And they jumped on board. They said, okay, we're going to donate 6 engineers to you free of charge as a charitable donation. Why would you do that? Well, they'll be working on a current AI project, and they're going to come back to us with AI smarts and experience, and we'll be able to charge more for them. So we are encouraging more and more of that type of engagement, where software companies who haven't figured out the AI game yet, but have got competent software engineers, you may want to follow the model of Arcus Nexus and make an in-kind donation of software engineers to us. And that's going to make you feel better about yourself, because you're contributing to AI for good. You're getting free training for a charitable receipt that could reduce your taxes. I'm not an accountant, but you can figure that out. And that's the way that we grow our army of foot soldiers that are going to help power the development of personal AI. So, okay, you might be a senior person. You might but most people that volunteer also have day jobs. So we ask that you get permission from your employer to participate, but you should be able to grant us at least 8 hours a month. So that's not a lot. That's attending a 1-hour weekly meeting, the weekly public meeting, and maybe participating in our quarterly summit, which you might want to come and attend personally, but we also stream it live. So that's not a huge commitment. If you can commit more than that, and you want to join our advisory council, or more than that, if you want to come, if you are a significant contributor, maybe a board seat. But we try to keep the administration of the organization low. But I think we've got an outreach for everyone. We will be opening up admission to enterprise, so enterprise membership, That'll be for a fee. That will allow enterprises to gain early access to the work product. It'll allow them to maybe participate and lead a work group, even commission a work group, or even seek a commercial license for the output. Let me talk briefly about that. Our aim is to create the tools to allow everybody to own their own AI, a personal AI. It'll be free for non-commercial use, free for personal use. Anyone who wants to use it for commercial use can seek a license. So that's the way in which we hope to make the whole movement self-sufficient. Initially, we're going to be seeking charitable donations, both in cash and in kind, in order to get us going.
That's amazing. Well, this has been such an interesting conversation, Reza. Thank you so much for being on the show, spending your time with us, sharing your vision. I think this is what the world needs right now, and it needs to be done by leaders like yourself. So thank you so much for doing that. Now, if somebody's inspired to do something about it, join the revolution, maybe start their own, whatever it is, and they just want to talk to you, what is the best way to reach you?
Sure. So the website's called Kwaai.ai. So look at the spelling, KWAAI.ai. So look up that website. Everything will be there. There'll be a join button. There'll be the link to the weekly public meeting. On the events page, there's the list, all the videos that we've at least the public videos. If you want to get to the work groups and all the work group meetings, you really have to join. There's a Slack channel once you've joined. There's also a summit that's coming up. So the Scale conference in Pasadena, the largest Linux developer conference, will be co-located with them on Thursday, March 14, and that's where we hold our summit. So we look forward to seeing you there in person, or it'll be streamed as well.
Amazing. We'll put those links in the show notes so that people can reach out to you easily. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Manoj. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me on your show.
Thank you. Absolutely.